between the holidays. You were there last week, you're going to be there next week. This is really lots and lots of bonus points for you. So, but this is actually not just bonus points Shabbat. This Shabbat does have a special name. This is called Shabbat Shuvah. Shuvah means to turn. We talk about the idea of teshuvah, returning on the high holidays. And this is this special holiday between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur that is supposed to say to you, let's say that this week what you've really been thinking about was homecoming. Or what you've really been thinking about is your schoolwork. Or what you've really been thinking about is whatever you're going to wear on Yom Kippur. If you've been thinking about any of those things, Shabbat Shuvah is supposed to say, wake up. Wake up. You were thinking about the wrong things. This is the time. This is the moment when we are actually supposed to make sure that we're doing the right thing. Because if you really believe what these high holidays are about, in just a few days from now, God is going to make a decision on what's going to happen in our lives in this next year. And that is a very big deal. So this is the time to be turning to the person that you want to be, to try and return to the best version of yourself. And so we do that by coming to services. It will be a shorter service than usual. You are welcome. I know everyone wants to go home and have all of your leftover challah and other goodies, but we'll get to add in some other things in our service tonight too. So we're going to start on page 11, second song from the bottom, with Ki Eshmer Shabbat.
Eshmer Shabbat, El Yishmereni. Ki Eshmer Shabbat, El Yishmereni. Oti Leomeya, Beino Uveini. Oti Leomeya, Beino Uveini. Beautiful. Ki Eshmer Shabbat, El Yishmereni. Ki Eshmer Shabbat, El Yishmereni.
So we always start our services together with lighting the Shabbat candles. And the truth is that traditionally you're supposed to light your Shabbat candles at a specific time every week. It's exactly when night falls. We usually always do it just whenever the service begins, but it just so happens that right at this moment, 6:35 is coincidentally when Shabbat falls tonight. So it's like the first time all year that we will do it correctly. I don't know how to use the lighter, please. That's my goal for this year. So we take a moment and we're going to do our candle blessing, which can be found on page 2. And we'll bring that spirit of Shabbat into our week, into our lives. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. It's beautiful, and we bring a little bit of sweetness into our week with our kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen. And then last we have our challah, and I did not check to see what kind of challah it is. Let's see. So you all know that challah on the high holidays is supposed to have a different shape, right? It's not this shape. Pretend. We should have brought, where's Diane? We should have brought one of Diane's challahs from home, except we wanted them for ourselves. So traditionally, sorry Diane, they're so good. So on the high holidays, we usually have a round challah, which is supposed to symbolize sort of the circle of life. This one, not so round, but we'll still say the lesson just the same. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. So one of the ways ways that we welcome Shabbat into our week is by welcoming in the Shabbat angels, which can be found on page 24. And we sing this song that welcomes the angels into our midst and makes us hope and pray that this will be a time of holiness when we are doubly blessed, feeling like there are angels with us wherever we may go.
And here comes the angel.
Oh, Lily, you're an angel too.
Page 24.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. V'melech Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Borachem Hashalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon.
So I'll turn now to page 28, and I would invite you to please rise for the call to worship.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv Aravim. As you taught Torah to those whose names I bear, page 33, teach me Torah too. Its mystery beckons, yet I struggle with its truth. You meant Torah for me. Did you mean the struggle for me too? Don't let me struggle alone. Help me to understand, to be wise, to listen, to know. Lead me into the mystery. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
We join in Shema on page 34.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohim.
are here tonight who wanted to help us with Be'ahavta. So if you are someone who wants to help us, you're not required. This is if you feel good about it and you want to come on up. On page 36.
Oh, okay. What is this in like?
Gather in close. Come on, a little bit close.
Wait, okay. Oh.
On page 39, standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. So we'll turn now to page 46, but before you rise, I want to alert you to something. If you've ever been reading one of these prayers and you notice that in the middle there's this little section of little letters that we never read, this is the time we read them. This is it. You have finally made the service when we read that stuff. So when we turn to page 48 and we do our tefillah, there's going to be a little break in the middle where we will say those words that are in itty-bitty words, so don't let them throw you off. But I'll ask you to turn to page 46 and we'll rise together.
Adonai, Sefatai Tiftach, Ufi Yitehi Latecha. Adonai, open up my lips, let my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu V'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor HaNorah, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה.
Now let's say these words together. Zochrenu lechayim, melech chafetz b'chayim, v'chotvenu b'sefer ha'chayim, למען האלוהים חיים.
מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה ברא להושיע, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים והופך עולים, ומציל אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומיתו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. Let's read this part together. מי כמוך אף הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים. ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. Please be seated. We continue on 55. A prophetic call. Disturb us, Adonai. Ruffle us from our complacency. Make us dissatisfied with peace of ignorance, the quietude which arises from a shunning of the horror, the defeat, the bitterness, and the poverty, physical and spiritual, of human beings. Shock us, Adonai. Deny to us the false Shabbat, which gives us the delusions of satisfaction amid a world of war and hatred. Wake us, O God, and shake us from the sweet and sad poignancies rendered half-forgotten melodies and rubric prayers of yesteryears. Make us know that the border of the sanctuary is not the border of living, and the walls of your temples are not shelters from the winds of truth, justice, and reality. Disturb us, O God, and vex us. Let not your Shabbat be a day of torpor and slumber. Let it be a time to be stirred and spurred to action. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
So we're going to turn now forward in our prayer books all the way to page 253. And at this time, we take a few moments to think of those in our community who are in need of healing prayers. So if there's someone that you're thinking of at this time who could use our prayers and who would appreciate knowing their names were shared here, I would invite you to share them at this time. We're thinking too of Arlene Alper, of Eric Ash, and Lorraine Albine. We're thinking of Harold. We're thinking of Marcia. We're thinking of Paul Halikas and Joel Levy, of Lisi Weinstein, and of Drew Patchen, and of all those names that we are saying in our hearts. So for them and for us, we sing the words of the Misha Berach, 253. post-sermon on Friday night last week. We're going to start with a Yiddish word. And Sarah Jane is not here to tell me if I'm doing this incorrectly, so it's probably going to sound more German than it should. But the word is Zebrochenkeit. It's pretty good sense, right, doesn't it?
Zebrochenkeit?
I don't know. Oh, Sarah Jane, if you're watching from home, you can correct me later. I think it's Zebrochenkeit, but if any, do we have any Yiddish speakers here? We've literally 2 Yiddish speakers in the whole congregation, Beth Shook and Sarah Jane, so I apologize if I did that wrong, but it's close to that. What's even cooler about this word, though, is not just how it sounds, but what it means. Zebrochenkeit means brokenness, but it's the quality of brokenness that has sweetness and wisdom to it. The idea of being broken in a way that is both sweet and wise, which sounds like somehow it should be a contradiction, but it's not, especially when you're talking about Jews, because we know this idea of brokenness well. So the best way to explain it, though, is through a story. So the story goes like this. There was once a great rabbi known as the Baal Shem Tov. You may have even heard of him before. The Baal Shem Tov is often credited as being the founder of Hasidism. But even now, when we think about Hasidic Jews, you think of them as being maybe kind of strict. They've got the black hats and the payas and everything. But when the Baal Shem Tov started Hasidism, that was not what it was like. The Baal Shem Tov was actually a rabbi who believed that all Jewish worship should be joyful. He believed that you should dance when you pray. He believed that you should drink lots of alcohol. Not you all, but that adults should drink lots of alcohol, and that they should be able to have a truly joyful experience anytime they came together. So you can imagine that services at the Baal Shem Tov synagogue were awesome. They were really great. Everyone wanted to be able to be at the Baal Shem Tov synagogue. So in the high holidays, they were especially special. And so everyone wanted to be able to not only attend, but to be able to participate in the service. So just as we at Temple Israel, we have different people who participate in the services, so too you wanted to be tapped by the Baal Shem Tov to have a role in services. So there were the candle lighters, and there were the Torah readers, and there were the other blessers, but the most important person of all was the person who blew the shofar, the Baal Tzedakah. So this one year, the Baal Shem Tov, he chooses who his Baal Tzedakah is going to be, and his name was Mr. Kitzes. And he tells Mr. Kitzes this, and Mr. Kitzes, he's so excited. And he tells him months in advance so that Mr. Kitzes has time to prepare. Because you see, when you're playing the shofar, does anyone here play, by the way? Excellent, all right. Tanner in the back, do you play? Okay, I thought someone else. Okay. We may have to train some of you, by the way, because we're going to need a new one when Oliver graduates. But the thing about playing shofar is it's not just that you have to be a good musician. It's not just that you have to know about embouchure, is that the word? Embouchure? Yes, embouchure, and how to play trumpet or trombone. It's not just that you have to know what all the different sounds mean. To each specific sound, there is some sort of Kabbalistic, deeper meaning. And you have to study and study to know exactly how to do it right. And so that's what Mr. Kitzes did. And literally for months, he would practice and he would learn all of the different kavanot, the intentions that you need to be able to get the mystical meaning of every single note. And he knew that it was hard to remember everything. So he had like a little card and he wrote everything down on this card so that when it was finally his turn to go to the Baal Shem Tov synagogue and be able to blow shofar, that he would be able to pull his little cheat sheet out of his pocket and read it before each shofar blast so that it could be truly amazing and magical. So finally, Rosh Hashanah comes. Mr. Kitzes is so ready, he's got his amazing shofar, and he walks up there, and he's about ready, and he sticks his hand into his pocket. Nothing's there. He realizes that he has lost his sheet that tells him exactly what to do, and exactly the right kavanah and the right intentions he's supposed to have. And without that sheet, not only is he lost, but he begins to panic. I mean, he is absolutely so upset because here he is, he's got the coolest job at the coolest synagogue with the coolest rabbi ever. And the job of the shofar blower, it's not just that it's this amazing musical performance, it is supposed to be the mystical moment of all of Rosh Hashanah when everyone is able to actually reach God's ears, and he has messed it up by leaving his sheet at home. And he realizes it's not there. He doesn't know what to do, and the Baal Shem Tov is calling him up. It's time for him to do it, and so he just takes his shofar, and one by one he does all of the calls, Tekiah, Teruah, Shavarim, Tekiah, Gadola, and by the end he is just sobbing. He is just sobbing because he knows he did it wrong. He knows that he did not do it with the intention because he was just so heartbroken and he could not believe that he had all this possibility and he lost it. And the service ends and the tears are still streaming down his face. And the Baal Shem Tov, the rabbi, comes up to him and the tears are streaming down his face. And Mr. Kitzes is like, I can't believe it. I can't believe that I ruined Rosh Hashanah for you. And the Baal Shem Tov says, ruined it? You didn't ruin it. You were the one who made it happen. The Baal Shem Tov says that there are many keys to the different rooms of God's house. There are different ways that we can access different parts of who God is and how God connects to us. But there is one thing that truly opens up God to all of us, and that is not a key, but it's the axe that is the broken heart. The Baal Shem Tov says, you went up there and you let your heart be broken for us. And it was because of that vulnerability. It was because of the suffering and the brokenness that you allowed us to see that God, too, was finally able to open God's self to us. And I know that God heard our prayers. That's what Zebrochenkit is. It's this idea of saying that somehow you can have a broken heart that brings such joy and such wisdom that it can actually reach people. And in Judaism, we believe that actually we are at our best. This is a weird thing to say, but we are at our best when we are broken. One of my favorite teachings, and I've told some of you before, but it's good enough to repeat again and again, is that in the scene where Moses goes up the mountain and he takes the 10 Commandments and he breaks them down because he's so upset that he doesn't just throw those broken pieces out. Moses carries them with him. He carries his brokenness and his mistakes everywhere he goes. Because in Judaism, we say that brokenness is where we find beauty, and that brokenness is where we find vulnerability. So as we go into this new year, I'm not going to encourage you to be strong. I'm not going to encourage you to be wise. I'm not going to encourage you to be anything except absolutely your own vulnerable selves. And even if that means that you are going into this year a little brokenhearted, maybe that means that your ability to be so honest and so vulnerable and so openly brokenhearted to the world will mean that God opens God's hearts to us. So Shabbat Shalom and Shana Tova. And we are going to turn, I told you it would be a little bit shorter, we are going to turn towards the conclusion of our service now. And I'm going to ask you, if you will, to please rise. Turn to the Aleinu on page 282. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'ateit g'nula li'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu k'goyei ha'artzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchakinu kahem, v'gor aleinu k'chol ha'amona. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. On page 287.
May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding, loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol ha'aretz v'yom ha'u v'yom ha'u yeh Adonai echad u'shemo
So we take a few moments now and we recall with love the names of those taken from us in recent days, and our hearts go out to their families in sympathy as we recall their names: Sheldon Anger, Sandra Greenberg, Shirley Resnikoff, and Ellen Weiss. We now recall the names of those the anniversary of whose death occurs on this Shabbat and whose names have been inscribed in the archives of our congregation or in the Wall of Honor for perpetual memorial. S. Charles Bear, Ida Baumgarten, David Benson, Arthur Bierman, Dr. Arthur Bortnick, Mary Cohen, Rabbi Jerome B. Cohen, Evelyn Rotman Fleischer, Joseph Jack Foreman, Eliza Frank, Isaac Frank, Melville D. Friedman, Joseph Gantz, Jack Gerstein, Private Fred Golding, who died in the service of our country, Pauline Ziegler Gordon, Rose Greger, Sidney M. Harris, Adali Kessel-Holm, Mary J. Isaacs,
Amelia Jacobson, Saul Kaiser, Benjamin Kessel, Minette Lava, Aaron Lander, Morris Lansbaum, Gussie Levy, Ignaz Lowenberg, Clarence Edwin Mange, Nisi Newman, Burke Oserowitz, Samuel Pasternak, Dr. Robert Rochman, Theodore Rosenberg, Harold Sarner, Samuel Schoenbrunn. Anna Scherberg, Michael Sherman, Rose Siegfried, Adeline Simon, Sally Simon, Miriam Tucker, Carl Vetzberg, Sigma Victor, Isaac Witelski, Richard Wing, Paul Richard Wing, Alice Richter Winston, Clara Goldie, Adler Wolf, Stephen Blake Wolfson.
So with these names and the names we keep in our hearts, we turn to the Mourner's Kaddish on page 294.
Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shamei Rabbah, Ba'alma divrach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh, B'chayachon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei b'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'gala u'v'izman kari v'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lalmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Damiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
May the source of peace and peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. We say, Amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Two quick announcements before we turn to a closing song. First, again, Yom Kippur starts Sunday evening. We hope to see you there Sunday evening, and then all day Monday we will be here with children's services starting at 9, and then regular services starting at 10. And then, of course, we have all sorts of adult education and other opportunities, service opportunities throughout the afternoon. And then the memorial service is at 4. A few people have asked me this question, so just a reminder that we really don't do the afternoon service anymore. So if you want to come to the memorial service, actually come at 4. That is when it starts. And please, if you haven't had the opportunity to do so yet, we really hope that you will bring some items for our toiletry drive. We're the only congregation in St. Louis who are responsible for helping the Jewish Community Food Pantry to provide toiletries. And so we really hope that you will help, and you can make a donation, or you can just bring any toiletries you have. If they're in your house and they're unopened, those work too. So we are going to close with We Return. We return, we return, we return, return again. We return, we return, we return, return again and again to you. Shana Tova, Tikatevu, may you be written and
May you be
sealed
sealed.
for a good new year.
Marka Shemato.
Hello again.
Hi.
Okay, I